Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer and dear listener, you're going to love this guest. He's no stranger to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. You'll see him momentarily, but please, as I always ask, please strike that subscribe button. We need your support. We're also available for any sponsors and any sponsorships that might be out there. But for present purposes, let me introduce my guest, Mr. Gilbert Sesinyi. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, this is your third appearance on the Nugget.
Wow.
Yeah, I like calling you back because land is a very important issue, and I would say that land is central, and is central to human existence, and it's a subject about which you are passionate. Can you just introduce yourself for those who don't know you, and maybe introduce what we're going to discuss today?
Okay, thank you so much, my brother. My name is Gilbert Sesinyi. I'm a land surveyor, a registered land surveyor, who has over the past couple of years become involved more in social activism and conscientizing people on land matters and rights and use and the innermost workings of land. And it has become a passion for me over the years. It has grown with me. When I was younger, it was also young. The more I mature, the more it matures too. So, I suppose in the session that we're having today, we'll be talking about land in Botswana and the context of the various, areas of application.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
For any land infrastructure or setup to work, it needs to have a legal framework.
That's right.
So we have in Botswana the Tribal Land Act and several other acts which you've explained previously. But can you just recap on the current Tribal Land Act and explain what new important features it has?
Yes. Our land systems in Africa are usually tied to an evolution of our history. They represent where we come from and where we desire to go to. And ordinarily, we as a developing nation adopt models that try to bring us closer and closer to first world models that make it very functional and competent for us to be able to use land in a manner that it ties in very well with the superstructure of the world. So before independence, we had user rights, and we were given to user rights. The colonial government had the interest of making sure that we do not gain competency in the area, full competency in the area of knowing how the full utilization of land works, because then we would have become difficult to rule. It's very simple. So, effectively, we were relegated to a portion of Botswana called tribal land, which is 70%. In that tribal land, there were no real rights. Real rights are just rights that are registered at the Deeds Registry Office. The Deeds Registry Office is a functionary of the world financial system. It allows for land to be able to tie into the financial market and become tradable and developable. So if in this modern day civilization, when land is not recorded as a real right, then it is not possible to develop it in harmony with all the tenets of development that are required in the civilization that we live in. So back in pre-independence, we had user rights, which means our grandmothers and before grandparents could use the land but they could not bond the land. They could not use it as collateral. They did not have title, which is the modern day context, it was there at the time, but they were not allowed. They were omitted or excluded from that. And then there was the portion of land that was given to settlers, which was freehold land. Freehold land was just a portion which was up to about 7% that was set aside for the settlers so that they could work it the way the modern day current system that we know of land works, where they could do all the marvelous things, which means they could be able to tie in land with the world financial system and use and draw maximum benefit out of it. And hence you find this is where most developments really took place. And then there was crown land, which is the 23%. This is pre-independence. Post-independence, we then now, of course, coming into the realization of our backwardness, the things we didn't know, and desiring to catch up. We had land commissions in 1983. We started first and foremost with the customary grants, which were certificates. They were still user rights, but recordable user rights. They were still not real rights, as they could not be registered at the Deeds Registry Office. So in 1983...
Tell me about the 1983 Land Commission.
The 1983 Land Commission set up, I think it was by then the President Masire, was a land commission set up in recognizing that very fact that we were not using land optimally. We were not having the access to real rights, which would then give us access to the financial, as I always say, the world financial system. Once you touch a bank in Botswana, you've touched banks all over the world. The world financial system is implicated, it's interlinked, and it has a model, it has a platform and a matrix with which it works. Nothing else. There's no mystery about it. It can only mean that. So you would say in 1983 we were lamenting this lack of utilization of land. As we could see the world, we are not in an island. Our leaders would go out of the country and see things and wonder and learn about title, or even locally look around and see people who had title making more progress than those who didn't. So we then started realizing, and nobody came to teach us that, by the way. The colonial government didn't tell us that this is what we are leaving you with. They just left us with the problem. As I usually say, that
we had to figure it out for yourselves.
Oh yes, things we must figure out for
ourselves.
You said
a
superior remains a superior because of superior knowledge. And the superior cannot equip an inferior with an equal quality knowledge, because then it will defeat the purpose of their superiority. There is no way that we can trust that those who colonized us can give us an equivalent quality knowledge that they possess. It will just defeat the purpose. We must understand that we are an underclass, or we're an underclass, and we're left an underclass. Nobody, even in assuming what the status that we call independence, it didn't mean that now we had achieved the knowledge required to make us equal to those who once colonized us. That's a journey that is undertaken by persons and a nation. And it is a journey that is undertaken by people being open about their affairs, open about their circumstances, and sharing one with the other to be able to cultivate and bring us. It is something that you do for yourself. It is a do-it-yourself thing between yourself and God. It is not something that your superior owes you to elevate you and bring you to the same status. So I think this whole illusion that we will be raised by those who once benefited from our ignorance is a total illusion.
Yeah. Talk about the commission again. What recommendations came out of that, and do you know who was part of that commission?
Yes, there were a number of people. One that I know that is actually still a mentor of mine up to today is Patrick Balopi. He was one of those who were in the commission, having served in government too, and in a ministerial position. There was an assembly of them. I just quite don't remember all their names that were in there, but all these commissioners were sent with a mandate to go and see what needs to happen to be able to bring tribal land, which is the majority of Botswana, into a format that could make it bankable, into a format that could make it allow Botswana to be able to access financing through it. And then that's when now they transcended what you call the customary grant and realized that they could come up with what you now call the common law. Common laws were just like a graduation of the customary grant to the status where it could now be registered, surveyed
as a common law
lease that could have rights that could be registered at the deeds registry office, over which time you could be able to now use it as an international piece of land. Land assumes an international status the minute it is registered at deeds registry. Before that, it is below and it cannot serve you.
Yeah. And there was around that time a thing called TGLP as well, Tribal Grand Leasing Policy. Are you able to speak on that? Because that one came under the first president, Seretse.
Yes, I believe that I don't have much information on that, but the memory that I have, having done a lot of survey work in the country, is that those were leases drawn by the state. Those are leases drawn by the state that accorded the recipient of those leases or the leasee a common law status as well, and that they could be registered at the deeds registry. So that was an elevated status.
Some farmers got huge tracts of land, 8 by 8, 9 by 9 kilometers, 4 by 4, around that time.
Oh, yes.
To the exclusion of the communal areas.
Yes.
I think that was the whole idea of the policy, where the farmers were encouraged to run these ranches on commercial basis.
Indeed. And it's, as much as we think those are huge tracts of land, I mean, but the abundance of land in Botswana still really bothers me in terms of what could be available to many people even today. There's a lot of land wasting and rotting and sitting idle, fallow, on account of a lack of planning and a lack of implementation of such. That was a good effort in its beginning, but I don't know why it sort of like died a natural death and got surpassed by time. And but in fact, I wouldn't say I don't know. I know. We will get to that.
Yes. Now you talk about the development. You're lamenting the absence of development. Let's talk about development plans as an instrument of development. I'm using the word development twice, but two different meanings.
Exactly. There is a grave lack of knowledge in that area in our country, and it really saddens because it is almost escaped even professionals. All countries are subject to a development plan. A development plan is a plan, as the word states, that indicates within a life of about maybe 30 years or 25 years.
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I was just saying watch the water there.
Okay, yes. Within a span of 30 years or so, where the authorities who are mandated to do so come up with a coordinated layout of land uses, of facilities, of infrastructure.
Is it normally done by town planners, right?
It's done by town planners, but in collaboration with other stakeholders. Normally it will be the land board, with council in Botswana, with the general public. They will consult with everybody to make sure that it's all inclusive and it represents the vision of development in that locality for that length of time. And once it has been collated and the report has been properly put together and approved, it is actually a legislative instrument. It comes from the Town and Country Planning Act, and it's to be approved by the minister, gazetted and approved by the minister. Once it is approved, it now becomes law. Once it becomes law, it is the basis upon which the country should be valued. You have to understand me very carefully there. It is the basis upon which...
Is it a singular plan for the whole country, or it differs from district to district?
It's locality to locality, within what we call planning areas.
Yes.
It's a development plan because we have defined the planning area. To say, for example, we have a planning area called, say, Gaborone Administrative
Greater Gaborone.
No, Gaborone. Gaborone has got its own development plan that indicates or shows what will happen between this year and this. I think Gaborone just expired last year, and it's been there for many years. So they stay, but then when they expire, they are revised. Not to do away with what was there, but to reorient and regather and then give it, the life that it has. But once it is approved, it then assumes the status upon which the value of that country or that locality or that area is based. Therefore, what that basically means is that when you want to know the worth of Gaborone, for example, before we look at the buildings, we look at the development plan. Because you see, agricultural land is not the same in value as a commercial piece of land. Commercial piece of land is not the same value as a sports and recreation piece of land. So all these values that have been attributed by way of a development plan have a bearing on the value of that area. Now, the saddest omission that has happened in this country is that because of this tendency of leaving out the majority of the populace out of the development journey and having them stand there as spectators or little children to be dictated to on where their development should go, it has been that people have owned large tracts of land within areas that have got development plans, and professionals have omitted to talk to the development plan of the area. In other words, when you send a valuer to go and do evaluation, Mogobe is in a planning area. There's already a plan that has indicated is going to be a residential area. But these plans are secret almost. They are kept.
What do you mean they're secret almost?
Number one, they are expensive to purchase. So members of the public are not going to invest in them. Number two, professionals are not in the habit. For example, the development plan for Gaborone will cost around 13,000. So an ordinary professional, unless they've got a tender, will not just walk into Department of Town and Country Planning and buy a 13,000 pula development plan just for purposes of having the information. So that makes for a professional, it's not commonplace amongst professionals to have development plans of various areas. It is not commonplace for even students to have, which they should, more so. And the fact that these are put together by taxpayers' money, but then deprived, because they are so illuminating, these plans. They give you the wherewithal. They give you an understanding of where you are, where things are going, where you are sitting. Is there going to be a mine where you are? There's a mine planned. You don't know. Is there a bypass? I mean, would you have known that these interchanges are going to take place? You would if you had the plan, and you would have known ahead of time. And these plans have a consequence in terms of your actions, in terms of where you're going to go and plan to do what you do. And then these plans also have a consequence in informing the fact that where you are already has been designated or given a zonation or a land use that has been attributed to it. So if the lady who owned the field where Bokamoso Private Hospital is built, if she knew that that field was not a field, she wouldn't have given it up so easily. But she was kept
for so
in the
little.
dark. For so little. She thought she was sitting on a field. But one of the things they're sitting on just useless tracts of land because of not knowing of development plans. How can young people not know the development plans of their own country? That is sad.
The solution is for what? For young people to contribute money and buy these development plans and then perhaps share them among themselves.
I mean, we cannot be proud of depriving our young people of the knowledge that would elevate them and cause them to see and think beyond the stars. What kind of a society or a country keeps their young in ignorance? I mean, whether they
is it deliberate or just happenstance?
It's got historical, it's deliberate. There's something wrong with us, but unfortunately we are not willing to admit that there's
Why do you say it's
us.
deliberate?
It's deliberate. I mean, I've engaged with officials on many accounts over my 28 years of service. I've heard them literally tell me that we don't want to give that to the public because the minute they know, there's a general tendency and because and we have even given the Motswana the feel what he has is worth nothing. So the land board has no shame in writing to you a lease by a plowing field, knowing very well that you are sitting on a commercial plot, and just put a false land use to perpetuate this falsehood in your mind, so that when they come and want to repossess, it should be easy for them. They don't want us to know the real value of what we have. Countries are built on the basis of solid development plans.
Help me understand this. If the reason for creating the development plan was to plan ahead as a nation so that we know what is where is what. Help me understand the logic that now comes in to say the very plan that the government has invested money getting town planners and specialists to come up with, consulting with the public, like you said, all of a sudden is not made available to this very same public. Help me understand the logic, because to me there's some incongruence there.
There's a total disconnect. You should be asking me, but rather I'll answer the question. But the fact that I'm saying to you that the land board can deliberately, with I'm talking about living things that are happening as we speak, things that are on my desk, piles of a mess that needs to be cleaned up. I mean, I'm talking about we're here, just before the Mutaibe River, and all this area has got development plans. So when this development plan just came out, and which we are thankful to in July 2022, after being in abeyance for quite some time, there are development plans that people don't know about. Even when they do get approved, there's just a general silence, a general So if the land board can see itself write a land use that is not consistent with that which is in the development plan, what kind of mind does that? This is what we should be wondering. Why are you concealing a land use that will elevate that very person? It is because historically we were a disadvantaged people. It is because historically we were left out of development. And it is because when that happened, we adopted the same mentality that the colonial government used against us. We adopted it against ourselves. This is the great sin.
So we became the new colonizer.
We are the new colonizer of our own selves. This is what is stopping us from reaching the larger than Dubai dream. It is because it is our own mentality. We are...
Are you saying our bureaucrats and our politicians are our new colonizers?
Yes, absolutely. And they do that remote control without even realizing. The thought of a fellow Motswana having access to real wealth and true wealth just uneases them. It just causes them to shut down. It is almost the reason why this Bamalete case that you
will talk about it later. But
yes.
But here's what I want to give you an opportunity to do, Sesinyi. Can you reveal on Mogobe Nuggets where the surprises are? Let's talk about the greater Gaborone. Where are the surprises? People don't know what is intended where. Can you just deal with 2 or 3 or 4 areas and enlighten us?
Well, I mean, I would love to have put up right here and have places and shows where we take these development plans and project them and keep. In fact, the Khotatsode should have boards where these development plans are displayed, and then there must be superimposition of your interests on the development plan so that you can relate with the development plan. Development plan is not something for you to just look at. It's not just a picture. It is a life in the sense that you are in it. Your interests are in it. Your forefathers' lands are in it. The public's land is in it. Wherever you are incorporated in it. So it is important. I mean, there's many features. I couldn't just point out a few areas on that. I mean,
but are there any surprises for you from the map you've seen?
Oh yes.
What is coming?
Just mind-boggling things. Where
tell us.
What
are they now?
These fields are now residential neighborhoods with streets with no names for now, but streets and whatnot. People are sitting. This is what I'm saying. The lady at the Bokamoso private hospital, if she had known. If it had happened that this had happened before this time, because now that we're living in a different time now. Now we're living in a time where now there has been an intervention in our affairs. If that lady was in this time, she would be a multi-millionaire over the Bokamoso project. Because the Bokamoso project is just a private interest of business people who wanted to make money, and they needed land that had the right zoning, and they needed land that they could be able to use that was located exactly where that lady's field was. So she had the right, if she knew, but she was holding a certificate written that wrong use. So when they would come to her and even go through the process of acquisition in an illegal way. Because number one, if you don't value yourself, you can't value your own people. Then you can't value your own land even.
No, you can't.
It goes to that point, to that extent where you don't value yourself, because historically we were told we were nothing. It is an inferiority thing that is with us here. White supremacy brings in its wake a black inferiority. They are partners in crime. So we cannot live thinking that we were never subjects of colonialism. No. We were. And the effects of it are showing themselves up today. Very few of us escape this. But I mean, it's sad because escaping it alone doesn't help. The only way we can do it is we must all rise
collectively.
Collective elevation.
But you have a model, as far as I know. You have a gentleman by the name of Henardo de Soto, who you touched on last time. But I want you just to simplify it such that even a 5-year-old can understand. What is the Henardo de Soto model?
The Henardo de Soto saw something that I saw before I read his material. It was a very interesting connection because I saw this reality, understood it so well. And then when I saw it, and then I even wrote a book. And just when I had finished the book, I was ready to publish it. A brother came to me and put in my hands the Mystery of Capital written by Henardo de Soto. When I read it, it was like instant gratification in terms of the connection with the knowledge that he had unveiled. He had found that in third world countries, there is one big problem, which is the same problem that led President Masire to commission the Land Commission in 1983. But he had said, we don't have representation at the rights of all the investments that we make. In other words, even if you look at us here in Botswana, you look at Botswana Power Corporation, they put power lines all over the place, but they don't have any title over that. And yet the BPC, you would think, or maybe they have access to the world's greatest water utilities. That's the same thing. Department of Roads, exactly the same thing. When you pour money into development, you have to have a manner or a method through which you are able to record that into a right that can convert into value that you borrow against.
And these are service corridors that you spoke about last time.
Service corridors, servitudes for various services that are in this entire country. There's a lot of services. If you take towns like Bophikwe, the amount of money that was poured in infrastructure, that there is no return on that investment, simply because of a simple omission to record the asset as a right that you can use in the world financial system. I mean, this thing should not be complicated, but all countries first worlds run on that model. It's a world-class model. I mean, like as I say, this is not like coming up with new ideas. This is trying to see where have we been left behind?
But countries like South Africa and Egypt and a few others that seem to be ahead of us have understood this concept.
Of course, but in South Africa, it's almost like, these things are very interesting because they are tied to our history. So you'd find in South Africa, yes, that's the model. But now when the white man left, he subtracted some of that model and left the blacks to see if they understood that. So there are problems that you see in South Africa today that are owing to the very same problem. But when the whites were in power, they knew. And they had recorded every of their investments, every little detail to the detail of their investments. But when they were harassed to leave because they were an unjust people, we didn't check what this unjust person had with him in the way of knowledge that we could be able to use to incorporate in our work when we try to govern ourselves. So South Africa is similar. Zimbabwe is similar. It's the same problem. So this is why when they've left, but they left with their knowledge. So it's a question of knowledge, this thing. Superiority and inferiority is a knowledge thing. It's not a color thing.
So how do we then apply this model, the Henardo de Soto model in Botswana?
We must, of necessity, take counsel, take a step back, sit together as principled people who understand our historical context and who are desirous to break out of it into a new reality. We must sit down and be able to draw intelligent plans that work and not try to bluff people to get votes. That is an old thing that must just go away. We need to be serious, and we need to sit with our children, empower them with knowledge, show them the real formulas that have lifted other nations, and encourage them to apply those same formulas in this country to lift themselves. Baskana, these consumer patterned children, and all these malls where we have all these chain stores that come from outside. Everybody is feeding us. Our children should have, in Botswana, they must, these choppices and spas and Woolworths, need to shop or local shops run by our children with produce that comes from the country. It is possible. Our children have got everything that they need to be able to do that. We cannot keep seeing these great malls coming up, replicating America in Botswana, and all these chain stores are foreign. Where are our own stores? Where are those that will demonstrate?
There are one or two that are owned locally that are housed in these malls. But you're right, the bigger picture is that it's always the same.
And produce. We need to produce for our needs. Make the clothes, make the shoes, make the diapers, make the toilet paper, make the toothpicks, make the lotion, make the soaps, make the toothbrush, make. We must make all these things. Nobody says we can't make it, but it takes an intelligent approach that is tied to the land to be able to make all these things and create a new reality that will absorb our children into the workforce and make them great people, dignified, self-loving, because our children suffer self-hate. And no wonder, apparently, the suicide rate in Africa is the highest so far in the world, I heard.
I didn't know that.
Black children grow up without self-love.
I thought Americans are having a problem.
No. Well, if the Americans, there's a lot of black Americans who are probably doing that, because we act the same wherever you find us. So it is a self-love that has to come by way of recognizing the roots, how you were taught wrong. And just don't endear yourself to an education that puts you out in the streets.
So let's get back to the model. Ideally, if David Sesinyi had all the authority and the power, step 1, step 2, step 3.
Did you say David Sesinyi?
No, I Gilbert Sesinyi.
David Sesinyi is my late brother, though.
Oh, okay, slip of the tongue. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. What are those steps that would be taken?
Well, the first and
foremost.
Yeah, first and foremost. I always say to Banaba Batswana, you have a place, you have a location, you have a coordinate where you originate. How long also, where do you come from? Yes. Where do you come from? If you go back there and start making your claims from your ancestral origin, start making your claims. And when you make those claims, you make them against the mirror of the development plans in those areas. And you don't just claim Masimo. Come out of this whole mentality of thinking that that's all we're good for. Useless agricultural land. No, not that. We want to be able to claim things insofar as the development plan dictates. And Maranazona must come out and get information. Once they get information and get proper guidance, and we claim, once we claim, now when we fashion a plan for your own personal development, your own land resources, your own land bank, how are you going to develop it? Make sure you account for every piece of that land. Make sure that the service corridors are accounted for. Make sure that if it's an estate, create the estate. If it is not there, if it is there, adopt it, align with it, as a development plan would have you do. And then once you have that, you know that once you have beneficiaries, and you have the collateral for that those beneficiaries, that to provide services, you can provide services to anywhere in the country. Do you know that all we need, and this is exactly what happened with Cecil John Rhodes. Cecil John Rhodes was using the fact that there is beneficiaries, the people who are using the train, they will pay. And then he's got the collateral, which is where the railway line will be. He can bond. These two conditions always exist. So there's never an issue with providing services for the multitudes of people that you would want to entertain wherever you are. So all these things must be made to tie in. So that's why it will depend. It will be unique to whatever that particular development entails. If it is going to be a fund center, if it is going to be like a residential place, if it's going to be a hospital, if it's going to be, even if it's going to be an agro-industrial place, even if because we do have those.
Okay, so are you saying to me that there's a development plan already on which we can apply the Henardo de Soto model on? There's already development plan for the entire country?
No, the entire country hasn't been covered insofar as development plans are concerned, but a huge chunk of it has. There's many, since independence, we have been making development plans. So there's many development plans. So we can start with what we have as we continue to expand, because it takes quite a bit of money from the government, taxpayers' money, for them to be able to put these things together. But they've done very well. I mean, it is just that it's work that is not accruing its benefits to the real beneficiaries.
At least not yet.
At least not yet. So we must go after them. There's a lot of those. I've shared quite a number of them, if you remember, with yourself. There was a time, which I'll try and sort of remind you on WhatsApp when I sent, because I've been sharing.
Yes,
those
I think
that
you did send something.
Yes, those that I have accumulated over my professional life in this country. I share them for free. I don't charge them. I used to buy them. I give them to you for free.
And now, in terms of what you said last time, I want to remind you what you said on this show last time. You said there will be a Dubai one day, but you said it will take a snap or something to
That's
click.
right.
I want you to tell me that, since it's been a year now since you made those utterances, what have been your observations? And when you speak, talk to me in the context of HR reset policy and the so-called reset agenda.
Well, I don't know much about the reset agenda, since I never really read about it. I just heard about it. But
You
I
just
never
read
studied
the
it.
original speech.
And and I assumed it means that we are going to now, come back to the drawing board and get back on course. My vision here, I call it the larger than Dubai vision, because it is a vision based on the knowledge that I have acquired over the years. It is not just a vision. It's almost like, as we say, an idea whose time has come. The children are born to actualize and to realize their dreams. The reason why I'm even mentioning these things about development plans is because we're almost there. We're almost there. Once we can bring people on board and bring people on understanding how to become players, which is what we're busy doing, is trying to share with people information, number one, and knowledge, number two. Information must be there, and then knowledge of knowing how to get to this greater and higher place. So the greater than Dubai dream is premised on individuals embracing this new reality that is before us, of being able to take advantage of information and knowledge. And for every individual, it differs. But what I have found is that the younger people are more excited about that because they are almost born for it. So all they need is just the guidance of us, those of us who are willing and have the necessary experience to round up the younger people.
Let me just touch on something that I'll read quickly from the HE's speech on the reset agenda, something that I think relates to what you're saying. He says, we find ourselves, I think this is on page 3, we find evidence of a political leadership that for the last 30 years has increasingly fallen into the clutches of an underperforming public service that has grown more robust in obstruction than in productivity. We find an evolving culture of democratically elected but increasingly pliable political leadership of the last 3 decades held to ransom by groups of abrasive technocrats in low productivity mode, albeit with rising incidences of corruption.
Wow, how amazing and how accurate are such words. But unfortunately, with such words, they don't interrogate why this civil service is riddled with such mindsets. This is where it gets interesting. Yes, we see in Africa, it's not unique to Botswana. We see in Africa civil service that has become so corrupt, and that they believe that in fact the source of their livelihood is to do things that they're not hired for and benefit from those. But it is only because they don't understand themselves. They are the victim, they have the same mentality of the very people. It's a continuation in neo-colonialism to that my view. We were set off on this direction by the one who colonized us in the first instance. So we cannot believe that it is possible to accede to the rights and allow them to be able to soar.
He goes further, he said, it is in our introspection that we find entrenched interests causing economic exclusion and denigration of our people, indigenous Botswana in particular, who are the lowest in the food chain, so to speak. Look at these words.
The words are strong, but then now you see, when words are so emotive and they create that sort of emotion that is so painful, the question I must ask myself is, what are they doing about it?
He says, we do not want to continue to be ranked as the 8th most unequal country in the world. We are appalled by the youth unemployment rate and the unemployment rate as a whole. We cannot coexist with the current levels of poverty, and hence the need to reset. And the reset is spelled out as to what has to be done. Align government with machinery to the presidential agenda, save Botswana's population. That part we can say we have succeeded. Digitization, value chain development, which is what you talk about, unlocking opportunities, high growth companies, mindset change. He emphasizes mindset change. It is extremely important that we change our mindset of our goal to attain high income country status to be achieved. We cannot remain locked in the thinking of unproductive areas and expect to escape the middle income trap. This is coming from the highest office in the country.
But pretty sounding words, but still not adequate, because you see, words that just probe our emotions but don't have.
But look what has happened. We've now created the Ministry of Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So
it took ages to get here.
Yeah.
We've now relabeled the BIH is now Botswana Digitalization and Innovation Hub. I want to provoke you to think, say that something is happening.
No, I mean,
we are not just folding our arms doing nothing.
No,
as a country.
Yes, but I mean, I think in doing something, there must be some substance. I mean, building buildings and equipping them with furniture and writing pretty sounding words and saying mindset. When you say a mindset must change, you have to know what it takes for a mindset to change. Mindsets don't just change. A person doesn't wake up one day and be a different person.
It takes time.
It's not only time.
It's been about 15 or 17 months into this speech.
It's not only time. It takes programs with consequences, deliberate programs that are in place with consequences. People have to be accountable. And in fact, in this very country, there's a lot that is before the government. Is super, I don't know what to call it, insubordination, negligence of duty, disobedience to statutory authority. It is just everywhere. And nobody ever gets to answer for anything. We live in a country where there is no time years delivery is not even observed, and nobody is taken into account for nothing. Money is spent
even with the reset agenda.
Even with the reset agenda, we've got complaints currently as we speak with the Tribal Land Act. It's unconstitutional in our eyes, and it's sitting there with no one to account for not being able to render. Transactions being held in limbo for the last 6 months. The economy suffocating. Reset agenda still.
Well, isn't there a transition program that they talk about, the transitional plan that was spoken about in Parliament, where things that could have been done in 7 years are now being compressed into 2 years?
Those are words. Those are just words. In reality, we have taken 3 steps backwards. We entered a space where we thought, now we've got a new dispensation that will be able to make us more efficient and get title quicker. We go to the bank. And then they removed all the freedoms and introduced consent. So for everything that you want to do on tribal land, you need a consent. Everything. So that is deprivation of property rights without due compensation. That's what the government has just done. They have actually removed freedoms from property rights that existed from the common law rights that we had under leases.
In the Tribal Land Act?
Yes, in the new Tribal Land Act. There's nothing you can do.
Help us understand that better. What happened?
The new Tribal Land Act that then posed itself to be giving us a better status title to land, secure land title, or the deed of customary land grant.
Where you can now, even a certificate can be registered.
Where you can only they will have these titles. Yes, certificates or these titles that will exist in perpetuity, which is almost like freehold. So the attraction to Botswana was like, wow, we're going to have real value here. You cannot have real value because that very piece of title that you have been promised now. They have removed all the freedoms. In other words,
what freedoms have been removed?
Anything now that you want to do on tribal land, you need to get consent from the land board. Anything. If you want to go and bond with the bank, you need consent from the land board. If you want to go and transfer, you need consent from the land board. If you want to, anything that you want to do on Homo, it's structured like that. You need consent from the land board. The things that were not there before are there now.
In transfer and registration of a bond, mainly.
Yes. Yes. But there are many other things. Subdivisions. Okay. You need consent. You didn't need consent for subdivisions before. You want to cancel. But there were planning authorities.
Or TGLP or something.
Yeah, subdivisions.
Town
and country planning.
Town and country planning.
Planning authorities would handle that. But now you need to go to the land board to get permission. To go and get permission. They've created a bureaucratic stranglehold and depleted the freedoms that were there before they introduced Homo. So this has compromised the rights. It's prejudicial. It has compromised the rights and introduced a stranglehold, like I said, bureaucratic stranglehold. And Choka blocked the land boards. They are running away from their offices today. Land boards, I feel so sorry for them. They've got so much work. Before they still had so much work. They've got the issue of the tribal, the new secure land title that they have to deal with. Now they've got all these consents that deal with anything that you want to do. And it's not even administrative. It's dealt with by the board. So boards are sitting and
Wasn't this act debated? Wasn't it circulated for debate before it became law?
I was not privy to that whole process. I came in maybe a little late. I didn't look at the preceding, elements and what happened. Maybe one would have.
But this is your area. You would have picked it up.
I would have.
This is your area of economic activity. Surely you would have had something.
It's interesting sometimes, and sometimes in your area you can be left behind. I was left behind, as I'm being honest on this. I came after and then saw this thing and tried to work with it and tried to sort of. Now we have given them recommendations to say, please allow this seamless transaction or transition to take place. Let what obtained before continue. Allow people to do as they were doing before. And when you are ready with the new secure land title, then call it in and then we'll have an exchange. Call the individual in and have an exchange. They will ask you when you submit, or can you bring an original title deed? They'll ask you to bring an original bond if you want to re-register and get the secure land title. The whole system is not thought out. And you can tell, or either the people who put it together were not specialists. And then the specialists, where were they, like you say? I wasn't there. We didn't take part. But we're here now. And, it's never too late to get things right. And we're here, we're speaking honestly and forthrightly, requiring and pleading with them to release the country so that the wheels of the economy can, get in motion.
I know for a fact, and you can decline to comment if you want, that you've been assisting people with court cases. Are you able to discuss typically what sort of court cases these are without mentioning names?
Yes. One of them that really excites me is the one that deals with development plans.
Talk about that.
Yes, that's amazing. And
what happened?
We had a victory on that one. That one we can lose in anyway. It's where we say you've got a right. And that right, the land body has concealed the real value of the use of that area. We have superimposed your piece of land on the development plan and found that, the case in point, Bokamoso Private Hospital, we have found that is not a field but a commercial plot. So therefore, we require that you be regularized and brought into compliance with the development plan. The development plan is a high level document.
And once that, and you went to court and argued what?
Argued for alignment
and what
compliance.
Happened?
And then We were granted.
You were granted the
Yes,
order. There was no opposition.
No.
Okay.
Even the council, it was with the council, they never even put up an opposition. They actually filed a notice
to abide.
Yes.
And what was the consequence of that? Once you got the order, what happens?
Immediately now, your piece of land assumes the value it should assume. Your piece of land will assume the value that it would have assumed for Musadi Wakobokamo. So I like talking about it because it's an example that should pain us. You see, another problem with us is we don't feel each other's pain.
Yes. Yes, and then you were able to do what? What is the end of it?
Simply becomes a commercial plot.
So you were able to value it afresh?
You should. Of course. In fact, my say is, even if, in a sense, land body just the plowing field, the valuer, in valuing that piece of land, should consider that the development plan has rezoned it into a commercial plot. So, yes, it was revalued afresh, and it assumed a new value out the window.
Why did you have to go to court in this case? Because
when we went to our authorities, riddled with the colonial weaknesses that we are riddled with, the chronic self-hatred that we have. When we came, what they called SIM, can you please align this with the development plan? We don't have such a thing in our operations. What are you talking about? They don't even have in their operations councils throughout this country compliance. Yet it's there in the law that you must comply. You must align with the development plan. It is in the law, but it is not. It's absent in councils. Why? It's curious. It is because they don't desire for that to happen. It is not something that worries them. So we went to council, and council said no. Sesinyi is making unorthodox applications, asking for things that we don't. They don't. You know, when you go with their
you call them unorthodox.
They did write a letter to me telling me what I'm unorthodox.
Yeah.
I agree, when you make an application in these offices, there are forms for everything.
Yes.
There's a form for consolidation, a form for subdivision, form for change of land use, form for whatever, extensions and whatnot. Now, where is the form for compliance and aligning with the development plan? Where is it? And why I'm asking you and asking me and asking them, where is it and why is it not there? Because they omitted it. But yet, it is a service that should be provided, and it is a service that we must wake up and find out and relate with the professionals that could be able to coordinate your land parcels wherever you are. All your land parcels must be plotted on the national database of special You must know where your land is, and where the advantages are there, grab them. You must align.
Has there been a case where you received actual opposition from the other side in court, and what happened?
Oh yes, there's a number of those. There are those where the opposition is merely, a lot of our cases, it's where people are being denied change of land use, but in the presence of a development plan that okays the use that one wants to align with. So it is a lot of those. Most of our cases are really about.
And why would they oppose that?
They would oppose and use technicalities.
Oh, okay.
Or it's in limine and talk about agencies. Most of them will go in looking for agent applications, because of the
well, a lawyer would say this is not urgent. You've had this land for so long. What makes it urgent?
Because of the circumstances around people's lives. Unfortunately, it depends on the judges. Circumstances around people's lives. Somebody is being liquidated. Somebody is being, and the liquidation is happening. It's not, even though they had the land for some time, but they've got a situation. So that makes it urgent. So they go after that, not the merits of the case. Not the merits of the case. So we're busy studying this and realizing that we will move away from agency and now deal with the subject matter, the merits, which are that Botswana must align with their development plans. It doesn't matter what all these names and find out what the development plan calls it today, where you are. What does the development plan say? If it is there, let us go along with the development plan and become part of that development and benefit fully and value land properly. Value land in terms of the development plan. Stop valuing land in terms of the flawed documents from land board that are deliberately flawed because of the sickness that we suffer.
Well, I've heard that part of the problem is that these land boards as well as councils don't have property professionals. They don't have trained estate agents. They don't have degreed people in certain key positions. Has that been your finding?
Not really. I found a lot of educated. You know what? We are educated, but education alone will not free us from our historical demons. We're talking about historical demons. We're talking about people who won't perform certain functions, not because the law doesn't permit it, but because their minds don't allow them to free themselves to do that which is right, which is in accordance with the law. That is what another part of the problem is, that we don't follow the law, we follow our instincts. And these instincts are fed by...
Are they victims of mental slavery?
Yes, absolutely. You couldn't have put it better. It is exactly that, classically that. And how to deal with it is to confront it. It is not to try and massage it and call it something else and think what it says people must change their mindsets. People's mindsets were set when the colonial government came and instituted that program that we then hook, line and sinker fell into and started replicating.
Yeah. Time is not our friend, Mr. Sesinyi. I want us to talk about the Bamalete case, but we should respect that it's still before the courts, so it's still sub judice. So I want you to just talk about the general concepts. For instance, as I understand it, the Bamalete had a title deed which was being nullified. Comparing the situation perhaps with the Bafokeng and the Bakatla in South Africa, where tribes have title deeds and nobody's trying to nullify the rights contained in those title deeds. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll just do that very briefly because it falls in line with the findings that I have made about our psychology and the manner in which we do our outlook generally. I mean, you've got the Roman Catholic Church, who I believe didn't buy that land. They were given that land. They came under the guise of Christianity and got land from tribesmen and women who gave to them, donated in good faith, believing we were giving it to a church. No, payment done there. I've got the Tulip Block area that was given to Cecil John Rhodes. Given. He was given that by Kosikama, even driving out the Babirwa in that area, killing them even, to give for free land to Cecil John Rhodes for free. And then he started cutting it up and selling it. Now here you've got an African tribe that has gone out of its way and put together the little that they have and found a vision into the future and understood the value of acquiring title, freehold title at that time. They deserve a standing ovation for anybody to know that people in that time, as the Bafokeng did, as the Bakatla did in Khomo, tribes who did that deserve a standing ovation.
Yes.
But what do? Immediately the self-destruction mode kicks in, all the way from the top. We start wanting to destroy that benefit. This is why you can say all the words, but at the bottom, on the base, on the ground, it is the same subjugation, the same self-hatred playing itself out in many different ways. That when you see the possibility of your own people rising and gaining true benefit from the use of land, which is the real vision and the real dream.
What's wrong with...
Today, we'll find all manner of ways to try and... they should be harassing the Roman Catholic Church. They should be harassing Cecil John Rhodes over Tulip Block, who got land for free. This African tribe didn't get it for free.
They contributed.
They organized themselves. And
but wasn't it their land? Wasn't it their historical land? Why do they have to buy it?
You could ask that. It was now severed into freehold territory. So they were buying back what was truly originally theirs. This will make even a brass monkey shed tears. If you really understand the history, if you really understand who we are, where we're from, where we should be going, you can see this is unfair, it is unjust, and then it just compounds the evil.
So putting aside what's been going on in the press, are you able to give us a prediction about this case?
I know that the God of truth is on the scene. I know that we are not here of ourselves. I know that these things that are happening because of the will of God. I have complete confidence that they will, even if they don't triumph on this round, they will triumph. Because it is the day for that. It is the day for the blind to open their eyes. And they are opening their eyes. You can't now want to take us back in history. They realize this. They were happy and excited at this advent and possibility of gaining this landmass bigger than Pakalani and to create a new township. Once they've secured it, we will be there with them doing the Dubai dream, coming in with the greatest aspects of what should have been.
If it's valued as commercial land or industrial land, the values there will explode immediately.
Oh my God. Like I say, it's a freehold, it's Pakalani. It's a better Pakalani. It's an estate that will come in with multiplicity of uses. It will attract investment, the likes of which has not been seen. Botswana will live, we will gain. These people are on track. And they will prevail one way or the other. Because this is not a time for falsehood and chicanery. We're not living in that day. That day is gone.
Because everything's exposed.
Light, yes.
I mean,
knowledge.
The day of social media, everything just goes wild.
Very quickly.
You can't hide anything.
You cannot hide anything.
Yeah.
Sooner
or later it comes out.
It'll come out.
Okay. I think there's an expression that the truth bitten to the ground will what?
I'm not.
Yeah, the truth bitten to the ground will emerge sooner or later.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you doing to educate the youth? I know that you are involved with youth education specifically.
Yes, I am trying. It's not an easy group of people to work with, because they're quite, they get busy here and there. But there's a set of them that have approached me. They go by the name poverty doctors. A-level young man came up to me at the shopping mall and said, "I've seen you on the Nuggets.
Yes.
And I listened to you, and your frequency, it reaches us. There's a group of us, we are 500, and we want inspiration, and we want mentorship, and we want to be guided." And I saw that as a golden opportunity. I said, it really touched my heart to see a young man interested in such content, telling me about others. Our kids, like I say, are ready. But the thing is, they need to be guided. And if you look at them, if you really look at our children, a lot of their problems, the self-destructive patterns that they're into, a lot of what they do, it is because they don't know what life is. At the core of it, they don't even know why they're here, what their purpose is. And they need to be fed on a higher level to spark and ignite them, to reconnect them with their divinity. And if you can't do that by not recognizing the land on which they walk, they must learn how to take off their shoes, for the land they are on is holy. So we must assemble them and bring into them the inspiration of the time they're in and their possibilities, so that they shouldn't have to worry about being employed. This generation is not the one you're going to have employed in offices.
So what's the main thing you tell them about the land? What's the main message that you want to really drive through to them?
I tell them that they have a right to land. I tell them that they will have an anchorage ancestrally. Once they have been born and are born in this country, they already have an ancestral dividend. They must just go out there and realize it. I teach them that once they realize it, I'll realize it with them. I'll walk with them. I'll share my expertise to be able to unlock that which or more. Go home, I say. Go there. They had a place. You see, our children have left what they call the bundus. That's not the bundus. Those are places of development. Those are places of consequence. Get the development plan and check out and tell me if those you still think that's the bundus. So they've left land behind because they have now taken away with a stranger. They're like the prodigal son. They've gone off into towns and left the wealth because they lost the knowledge and the connectivity with the history. So all I'm trying to do is show them, it doesn't matter what area of interest they have, whether it's farming, business, whatnot, fashion, whatnot, it doesn't matter. Because out of the land we
link
will
it to the land.
A whole new world. Out of the land we will produce a whole new civilization. And all these shops and these ones, we will replace these ones pretty soon. You won't see spas and these pep stores. And we will have quality products, clothes produced by our children right here in this country. Food stores, restaurants, African food of the highest whole. We will raise our children, but our children will bite. But for them to bite, we must have patience, work with them, in recognizing that they've been taught quite in a very interesting way. They've been taught an education that has left them with very little to go by and made them circus elephants, basically. So they're going to go and fit in a system.
Explain to them what the circus elephant notion is.
The circus elephant's mentality is, you are just trained to fit in a system. You don't see beyond your professors or your teachers.
Because I think the argument is that the elephant was tied to a stake when it was little.
Yes.
And when it grows huge, that stake is like a toothpick. But because of the mentality, it can't just kick this toothpick. It still believes that it's the same.
Yes.
Although now it's a 400 kilo, I don't know how big this is.
Much bigger.
Maybe 2-3 tons or something in weight, but it's still behaving like it was when it was.
Absolutely.
It was a little baby.
Absolutely. They say he who prescribes the diameter of your knowledge determines the circumference of your activities. So the education is a prescription of the diameter
of
your knowledge. So therefore already they know how far your activities will be restricted. Within what frame, within what cycle,
within that circumference.
Within that circumference, But we want to escape that by bringing you a new
knowledge and extending that diameter.
That diameter to the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the book. When can we see it?
December. It's a Christmas present. I decided it would be the Christmas present. It was last year December when I took it out. When I postponed, and I've been working on it, and I've incorporated. And I'm very grateful to God to have given me this, opportunity to internalize more on the Henardo de Soto model and to, from an authority, since I am not an authority in land matters as much as I'm not an economist.
You are an authority.
Well, I suppose, I don't
I declare that you are.
Thank you. So I'm grateful that now I've been able to bring the tie in, because that demonstration is the real key to wealth. The minute your service providers, water utilities, Botswana Power Corporation, Department of Roads, the minute they embrace this, they are some of those that will kickstart the Henardo de Soto model to the next level, because they themselves will supply ESCOM with electricity.
They've started, haven't they?
Well, they'll give them a lot more electricity. The day they collateralize their assets and stop having assets floating in space and start having real rights over what they own, so that they can improve their book balance and improve their balance sheet, as it were, then we will start to see miracles. The provision of water and roads and services into the hinterland. We will have new roads, new railway lines. We will start now crisscrossing the country, providing and creating new centers with all sorts of possibilities, and being able to harness now, being able to in different areas of human endeavor,
Yeah. Now, any current projects that you are on apart from the book that you want to share?
Well, I'm currently doing a lot of assembly on development plans. They have really taken up a good part of this year. This is why I had thought, I should mention them in this interview today. Yes, we are assembling, we are creating a platform where we would assemble all the development plans that are available in the country, and then provide a service where we will superimpose all the interests. We are going to find the most.
So you can even come with your samausi and you'll tell someone what the future is for that.
Whatever you call the piece of land, the modesty and the humbleness has cost us the future. So we need to be bold and know what the language of the day is. Development plans and what they talk to us. What are they saying? And are we in harmony with those development plans? And do we have the right interpretation and understanding of them? So certainly we will go out. And I'm doing that. It's a big project, and it takes quite a bit of time.
Is that part of the bigger than Dubai project?
It is. It is actually part of the larger than Dubai dream. Oh yes.
Larger than Dubai dream.
Yes. We can't achieve that without that. And once the framework is in place, there are parallel. Government could be doing this. There's a geospatial Sunshine government, but I don't know.
What do they do, those guys? What is it supposed to do?
This is the thing. It's too theoretical. For me, it's almost like, we go to the very people who colonized us and ask us to give us a framework. We go to the very same people. This is why Lapka didn't quite work as well as they should have. We go to the very same people who colonized us and think that they will give us the solution and believe that they have given us. So they give us these empty,
half-hearted,
half-baked little. There's no local, innovation that should take place and brilliance. How about we don't have confidence in our own? That's a problem. So all this that I'm saying, if I was a white man, the bigger than Dubai Dream would move so fast. But because God has allowed a blackface, we'll see.
And is it still your view that Labkas has failed completely?
Of course, of course. It has failed, but it can be salvaged. But for it to be salvaged, they must be transparent and honest. And look at us in the eye. Don't look down. Don't feel attacked. Remember, all this is done because of the future of the country, where we want to take the country. So Labkas can be salvaged. But the only way it can be salvaged is such people must sit with us. Stop being afraid of hearing us talk out there as though we're just, battering. No. This is something to create.
You're patriots. Look at the colors you're wearing. You guys are patriots. I'm a patriot. Look at my colors on there. Yes. All right. So you have a question for me as we wrap up our conversation?
Okay. Let me just wonder. For instance, you began this marvelous program that you keep bringing us to and growing us in leaps and bounds. Where is it going? And in terms of, has it metamorphosed, so to speak? Is it taking on another form, at least mentally?
For me, I think it has assumed a life of its own. I mean, there was a time when my name was mentioned, they would say, Mogobe lawyer, associating with the law firm. And then when my name was mentioned, Mogobe was shopping complexes or buildings. Now, more and more people are saying Mogobe nuggets. So there's a sense in which it is now gaining a bit more prominence in terms of my activity personally. Having said that, it has had a powerful effect in terms of raising, at least to my eyes, the level of awareness in terms of entrepreneurship, with the help of the gentlemen and lady that are in the studio who are doing things behind the scenes. They have positioned the program in such a way that it is now part of the conversation. And when we talk entrepreneurship, when we talk mentorship, when we talk of personal development, people now take it seriously. And I think we're just getting started. If you look at our numbers on YouTube, we're just getting towards 9,000. But if you look at our numbers on places like TikTok, we're at roughly 35,000. So the numbers are growing because for a local show to have those sort of numbers is unbelievable. Because the only YouTube activity that has surpassed that substantially with respect to musicians, with respect to influencers. I'm neither of those. So to answer your question, Sesinyi, it has metamorphosed and it's taking an upward swing. I think it will be part of the bigger than Dubai dream.
Oh yes, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Yeah. All right. In conclusion, can you look at that camera, Sesinyi, and share final thoughts, words of motivation that you can leave the viewer with?
Okay. I would like to just take the opportunity to thank everybody for sparing time to listen and encourage everyone to listen more and to come forward with questions. Whatever it is that you do not understand, please get in touch with us. We're available. I can mention my number on 7748-7983. Ask questions because on a show like this one we say what we say, but of course then leave you with a lot of questions about many things. So feel free. We are here. We are born for you. We are born for this time, and we are not here of ourselves. And it's such a pleasure to serve. And thank you.
Okay. When you say you give your WhatsApp number, is that the only place you can be accessed, or is there a physical address, or a social media presence?
I think because of the volume, I just prefer just to manage my interactions with the public through my WhatsApp number.
So that you can control them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. This is your third time here, and as usual, you've shared generously, and thank you for educating us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.